Do you ever fear that 10 years from now you'll wake up and realize your life still looks exactly the same as it does today? The same habits, the same excuses, the same goals you never truly started pursuing. Do you realize what the scariest part is? It's not failure. It's spending years feeling like you're trying while never actually changing. You think a lot. You want to become better. You want more discipline, more wealth, more strength. But if everything you do every day still looks exactly like yesterday, then what makes you believe your future will be different? There's a harsh truth. Your life does not change just because you want it to change. It only changes when you stop living as your old self. Many people spend their entire lives preparing for a better life but never truly taking the first step. They wait for motivation, wait for the right moment, wait for inspiration to return. And while they wait, time quietly steals their life away day by day. In this video, I'm going to share 10 principles that truly explain why your life still hasn't changed and what must happen before everything finally begins to move forward. And stay until the end, because principle number 8 may make you realize the real reason you've been stuck for so many years. Principle 1, thinking is not progress. I want to begin with a truth that many people don't want to face. You can think about a better life every single day and still not move forward even one step. You can spend hours making plans. You can watch motivational videos, read self-improvement books, write goals for the future, and still end the day feeling like you accomplished something meaningful. But ask yourself one honest question. What in your life has actually changed? That is the most dangerous trap of the mind. It has the ability to make you feel like you're making progress even while you remain completely still. You imagine a stronger version of yourself. You picture a future where you're more disciplined, more successful, more confident, and the more you think about it, the more it feels like that future is getting closer. But life does not respond to imagination. It only responds to action. Years ago, I met people who constantly talked about their plans. They said they were going to start their own business, improve their health, learn new skills, build a better life. But years passed, and they were still talking about it. The sad part is that they weren't lazy in the usual sense. They truly spent a lot of time thinking about the future. They analyzed, they prepared, they researched, but they never took enough action to create real movement. And slowly, thinking became a substitute for action. That is when people begin to get stuck without realizing it. You must understand this. There is a huge difference between preparing to change and actually changing. Many people live in a constant state of preparation for years. They always say, I'll start when things get better, when I have more time, when I feel more confident, when I'm more ready. But life does not change inside the word someday. It only changes when you begin doing what needs to be done, even when you do not feel ready. I once knew a man who always wanted to write a book. He talked about it for years. He had ideas, plans, even a title for the book, but he never wrote the first page. What hurts many people is not failure. It's living long enough to realize they spent too much time thinking instead of doing. You can think about changing your body every day, but your body will not change until you walk into the gym. You can think about improving your finances, but money will not change until you change the way you work and the way you use your time. You can think about a better life for years while still living in the exact same reality. That's why I always say, ideas do not change your life. Repeated action changes your life. The problem is that thinking makes people feel safe. Action does not. Thinking does not get you rejected, does not make you fail, does not embarrass you, does not make you uncomfortable, but action can. And because of that, many people choose to stay inside their minds instead of stepping outside to change their real life. They become busy mentally while their external life remains completely still. You must be careful with that, because one day you will look back and realize you spent too much time imagining the life you wanted to live and not enough time actually building it. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what have you been thinking about for months but still haven't started? What dream do you keep saying you'll pursue but never truly take action on? Because the truth is, your life is not created by what you intend to do. It is created by what you repeatedly do every single day. And the dangerous part is that when you think too long without acting, your mind begins accepting delay as a normal lifestyle. That is, when people lose motivation without understanding why. But even when someone finally begins taking action, there is still another thing quietly keeping them stuck. Something very familiar, very comfortable, and extremely difficult to notice. Principle 2, familiarity is keeping you stuck. There is something most people never realize. What is keeping you stuck is not always failure. Sometimes, it is familiarity. You wake up at the same hour, repeat the same habits, think the same way, respond to life as the same old version of yourself. and then you wonder why your life never changes. But how could your life become different when every day you continue repeating the same person? You see, the human mind is naturally drawn toward what feels familiar, not because it is better, but because it feels safer. Even when a life is exhausting you, if you have lived in it long enough, you will still tend to return to it. That is why many people know exactly what is ruining their life, yet continue living the same way. They know they need to sleep earlier, become more disciplined, stop procrastinating, stop wasting time on social media, change their environment. They know all of it, but knowing is not powerful enough to defeat familiarity. I want you to imagine someone living in a dark room for too long. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but after a while, their eyes adjust to the darkness, and eventually, light begins to feel more uncomfortable than darkness itself. That is exactly what happens to many people. They become used to procrastination, used to quitting, used to lacking discipline, used to saying, "I'll do it tomorrow," and slowly they begin treating it as normal. That is the most dangerous thing about familiarity. It makes a limited life feel acceptable. I have met people who constantly said they wanted to change their lives. But whenever opportunity appeared, they returned to what was familiar. They wanted growth, but refused to leave their old environment. Wanted success, but refused to change their daily routine. Wanted to become stronger, but refused to step into situations that made them uncomfortable. And because of that, they stayed exactly where they were. You must understand this. Comfort is not always a sign of peace. Sometimes it is a sign that you have stopped growing. A tree cannot continue growing if its roots are trapped inside a pot that is too small. And people are no different. If you always remain inside environments that feel easy, familiar, and require no effort, there is a high chance you are no longer in a place that helps you grow. That is why major change usually begins with discomfort. When you start waking up earlier, when you exercise after years of procrastination, when you learn a new skill, when you enter a room where everyone is better than you, all of those things feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort is often the signal of growth. Many people want their life to change while still wanting familiarity to remain untouched. That is impossible, because your old self can only create old results. If you want a different life, you must accept becoming a different person. That means thinking differently, acting differently, using your time differently, responding to difficulty differently. And in the beginning, all of those things will feel unnatural. Many people quit because of that feeling. They think, maybe this just isn't for me. No, you are simply not used to it yet. When someone begins changing their life, they often go through a very strange phase. Their old self wants to return to comfort, but their future demands growth. That is the internal battle everyone must go through. I remember the early years when I started changing my own life after meeting Earl Schaff. I realized the problem was not just money. The problem was who I was at the time. If I continued keeping the same habits, the same mindset, the same environment, then my life would never become different. And the first thing that had to change was everything I had become too familiar with. You see, many people are not truly living the life they want. They are simply living the life they have become accustomed to. That is why you must pay close attention to what you repeat every day. Because what you repeat eventually becomes your identity. If every day you procrastinate, you will begin believing you are an undisciplined person. If every day you avoid challenges, you will begin believing you are weak. If every day you live small, you will slowly forget how much potential you once had. Ask yourself one question. What in your life do you already know is no longer helping you grow, but you continue holding on to simply because it feels familiar? Sometimes, the thing destroying your future is not one major decision. It is the small habits you quietly repeat every single day. And that is when we must face an even harder truth. Many people do not truly lack the ability to succeed. They simply do not want to pay the price required to change. Principle 3, you want the result, not the process. I want you to be honest with yourself for the next few minutes. Do you truly want success, or do you simply want the feeling of success? Because there is a massive difference between those two things. Many people love the image of a better life. They want freedom, want money, want a healthy body, want respect, want to feel proud of themselves. But when life asks them to pay the price for those things, they begin stepping backward. That is where most people become stuck. They are attracted to the result while quietly resisting the process that creates that result. You want a stronger body, but you do not want to wake up early to train while your body still feels exhausted. You want better finances, but you do not want to learn new skills after a long day of work. You want to become different, but you do not want to go through the loneliness, pressure, and doubt that come with growth. And then you wonder why your life is not changing. Remember this. Every form of progress has a price. No one builds a powerful life through convenience. No one creates extraordinary results by only doing what feels comfortable. You see someone's success. You notice their confidence, their calmness, their freedom. But what you do not see is the price they paid in silence. The mornings they continued working without motivation. The times they failed but kept going. The periods when nobody recognized them. The days they forced themselves to do what needed to be done, even when they absolutely did not want to. That is the part that truly creates results. But people often try to negotiate with the process. They want massive results with minimal effort, rapid change without consistency, success without discomfort. That is like someone wanting muscles while hating the pain of training. You cannot separate the result from the process that creates it. A seed must remain in darkness before it becomes a tree, and people are no different. You cannot grow without going through difficult days. There is something I learned very early in life. Discipline always has a price, but the price of regret is far more expensive. Many people avoid discomfort in the present without realizing they are trading it for a greater pain in the future. They avoid learning new skills, then later suffer from being left behind. They avoid taking care of their health, then years later pay for it with their body. They avoid building discipline, then spend their entire life controlled by emotions. You see, life always demands payment. You only get to choose. Pay through discipline today, or pay through regret tomorrow. And most people choose the more comfortable price in the present. That is why they never change. I once knew a young man who constantly talked about wanting success. He watched every motivational video, read countless books, spoke about his goals to everyone around him, but he could never maintain even a simple habit for more than a few days. The moment excitement disappeared, he disappeared from the process as well. And that is what you need to understand. Motivation gets you started, but discipline is what carries you to the end of the road. Many people love the feeling of beginning. They enjoy creating new plans, new goals, a new version of themselves. But only a few people learn to love the repetitive process of doing the same things every day. And ironically, those repeated actions are exactly what create the future. You must learn how to do what needs to be done even when your emotions resist it. That is when life truly begins to change. Because if you only act when you feel motivated, your life will always depend on temporary emotions. But when you act through discipline, you begin becoming someone who controls yourself. And remember this, every stronger version of yourself in the future is built from very ordinary moments. A morning when you did not want to wake up but still got up. A day when you wanted to quit but kept going. A moment when you wanted to procrastinate but still took action. That is where character is created, not through grand speeches, but through small decisions repeated every single day. Ask yourself, are you truly pursuing the result, or are you simply in love with the idea of the result? Because many people want a different life while refusing to live differently. And the dangerous part is that when this continues for too long, people begin creating explanations to protect their stagnation. They no longer just procrastinate. They begin justifying why they do not change. Principle 4, excuses quietly become identity. There is something very dangerous that happens when someone remains stagnant for too long. At first, they are simply searching for reasons to delay action. But over time, those reasons begin becoming who they are. That is how excuses quietly become identity. At first you say, I'm just not ready yet. Then, I don't have enough time. Then, maybe I'm just not meant for this. And eventually you begin believing you truly are the kind of person who cannot change. That is how people trap themselves inside an invisible cage, not through circumstances, but through the story they repeat in their mind every single day. You must understand this. The way you explain your life determines the way you live it. Two people can experience the exact same hardship and create completely different lives from it. One person says, this is making me stronger. The other says, this is why I can never succeed. Same circumstances, different story, and that story creates a different future. Many people do not realize they are using their past to justify their present. They say, I wasn't born lucky. I don't have connections. I've failed too many times. No one in my family has ever been successful. It's too late for me to start. It sounds reasonable. But the problem is, those explanations do not help them move forward. They simply help them feel more comfortable remaining still. That is the danger of excuses. They rarely appear as obvious lies. They usually sound reasonable, logical, very appropriate for the situation, and because of that, people believe them. I have met people who constantly said they wanted to change their life. But whenever opportunity appeared, they immediately explained why it would never work for them. They wanted to start a business but said the market was too difficult. Wanted personal growth but claimed they had no time. Wanted to improve their health but said work kept them too busy. Slowly, they stopped seeing possibilities. They only saw limitations. You see, whatever you focus on expands inside your mind. If you constantly focus on what you cannot do, you will slowly lose belief in what you can do. That is how people slowly shrink themselves over time. Nobody forces them to stop. They convince themselves, this is just who I am. But listen to me carefully. Your past may explain who you are today, but it does not have permission to decide who you become. Those are two completely different things. One person can grow up in hardship and use it as fuel to become stronger. Another person can use the exact same hardship as a reason to quit. The difference lies in how they interpret their life. I remember in my early years, I also had many reasons to accept a small life. I was not wealthy, did not have special advantages, did not have a perfect beginning, but eventually I realized something. If I kept repeating the same story about my limitations, my life would always remain limited by that very story. That was the moment everything began to change. Because real growth begins when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what am I going to do from here? That question completely changes a person's energy. It moves you from the position of a victim into the position of someone responsible for their own life. And responsibility is where power begins. Many people fear responsibility because they think it means pressure. No, responsibility is power. Because when you take responsibility for your life, you also reclaim the power to change it. You no longer need to wait for someone to save you. No longer need to wait for perfect circumstances. No longer need to wait for motivation to return. You begin understanding, I may not control everything that happens, but I can always control my response. That is where freedom begins. Pause and ask yourself, what story have you repeated for so long that it has become the excuse preventing you from taking action? What limitation are you believing is true simply because you have heard it in your mind too many times? Because sometimes what truly keeps someone trapped is not circumstance. It is the version of the story they have become accustomed to telling themselves. And once you begin changing that story, you realize you are capable of far more than you once believed. But even when someone changes their mindset and begins taking action, there is still one thing that causes them to fail before results ever appear. They are not patient enough to repeat the right actions long enough. Principle 5, repetition creates your future. There is something most people completely underestimate. Your life is not changed by one massive decision. It is changed by the small things you repeat every day. You do not become a strong person after one motivated morning. You do not build success from one moment of effort. The future is created through repetition, through ordinary things so small that most people barely notice them. The way you wake up every morning, the way you use one free hour, the way you respond when exhausted, the way you speak to yourself, the way you act when nobody is watching, all of these things are quietly building your life day by day. And the dangerous part is this. Repetition does not care whether what you repeat is good or bad. It simply strengthens whatever is repeated long enough. If you repeat discipline, you become stronger. If you repeat procrastination, you become weaker. If every day you spend time learning, your life expands. If every day you waste hours on meaningless distractions, your life will reflect that too. That is how habits quietly become destiny. I once said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. But the opposite is also true. Failure is often nothing more than a few small mistakes repeated long enough. Nobody destroys their future in one day. It happens little by little. One act of procrastination, one moment of quitting, one time saying, I'll do it tomorrow. Then it becomes a pattern. You see, people often wait for one huge moment to change their life. One massive opportunity, one huge burst of inspiration, one explosion of motivation. But life rarely changes that way. It changes quietly. Like the way a tree grows, you do not see it changing every day. But if you patiently observe it over months, you realize it has become completely different. People are the same way. Small actions that seem insignificant today are often the exact things determining who you will become 5 years from now. Someone reads 10 pages every day. Someone studies 1 extra hour every night. Someone wakes up 30 minutes earlier to train. In a single day, almost nothing seems remarkable. But let 5 years pass. Their life will become completely different. That is the power of the compound effect. Something small repeated long enough eventually creates something massive, and that is also why many people never change. Because they constantly underestimate small actions. They think, one day off won't matter, just today, I'll restart next week. But life is not created by one day. It is created by direction. The direction you move every day matters more than the speed. If every day you move 1% closer toward your better self, your life will eventually change. But if every day you continue living through the same old patterns, then your future will continue looking exactly like your present. That is what many people refuse to accept. They want different results while keeping the exact same daily routine. They want more confidence while still living without discipline. Want more success while using their time the same way. Want a new life while refusing to build a new system. That is impossible, because what you repeat every day eventually becomes identity. If every day you keep promises to yourself, you begin believing you are trustworthy. If every day you overcome procrastination, you begin seeing yourself as stronger. But if every day you betray your own goals, you are also quietly destroying your self-confidence. That is something few people realize. Self-confidence does not come from saying, "I believe in myself." It comes from evidence, from repeatedly proving to yourself, "I can do what needs to be done." And that evidence is created through repetition. Imagine someone who quits every single time life becomes difficult. Over time, they do not only lose opportunities, they begin creating a new identity. I am someone who never follows through. That is how small actions shape an entire life. You are not only building habits, habits are also building you. So ask yourself, what are you repeating every day that your future will eventually pay for? Is there a habit quietly pulling you further away from the life you want to live? And also ask, if you continue living exactly as you are today for another 5 years, will you truly be satisfied with where you end up? Because the truth is, the future is not something that magically appears. It is the result of what you repeatedly do in the present. But this is where many people make their next mistake. They try changing their life through motivation, when the thing that truly creates lasting change is not motivation, it is system. Principle 6, motivation fades, systems stay. There is one mistake many people make when trying to change their life. They believe what they need is more motivation. So they constantly search for inspiration, a new motivational video, a new quote, a new goal, a new emotional high. And in that moment, they feel like they can conquer the world. But a few days later, everything returns to normal. Discipline disappears. Focus disappears. Energy disappears. And they begin thinking, maybe I just lack determination. No. What you lack is not motivation. What you lack is system. You must understand this. Motivation is emotional. Systems are structural. Motivation changes with emotions. But systems keep you moving even when emotions change. If your entire life depends on whether or not you feel like it, you will always live inconsistently. Some days you feel powerful. Other days you completely lose control. That is not how great lives are built. People who achieve long-term success do not always have stronger motivation than you. They simply have better systems. They create structures that make doing the right thing easier. For example, if you want to read more books but your phone always sits beside your bed, you are creating conditions for distraction instead of growth. If you want to exercise but go to sleep at 2 a.m. every night, you are destroying your own system. If you want to focus on work but your environment is filled with noise, notifications, and social media, you are fighting an unfair battle. Many people try changing their life through willpower, but willpower runs out very quickly. Systems are sustainable. I once learned something very important. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. You do not live according to what you want. You live according to what your environment and habits allow you to repeat every day. That is why someone can have massive goals while their life remains completely still, because their daily system does not support those goals. They want success, but their schedule is built around distraction. Want focus, but are addicted to short-term dopamine from their phone. Want growth, but continue living in environments that encourage procrastination. You see, an airplane does not fly in the correct direction simply because the pilot wants to reach the destination. It needs a navigation system, and your life is no different. You need structures that help you continue taking action even when your emotions are low. That is why I've always believed in the power of routine. Small things repeated correctly can save you during days when motivation disappears. For example, preparing your workout clothes the night before, placing a book on your desk instead of your phone, working according to fixed schedules, removing distractions, creating an environment where doing the right thing becomes easier. They sound very small. But life often changes through small things organized correctly. Many people fail not because they are weak. They are simply living inside systems that continuously pull them backward. Look at the world today. Social media is designed to hold your attention. Notifications are designed to distract you. Entertainment exists everywhere. If you do not intentionally build a system for your life, someone else will build one for you. And usually that system does not serve your future. It serves your consumption. That is why many people feel extremely busy while never truly moving forward. They spend the entire day reacting to life instead of intentionally designing the life they want. One day, lost in small distractions may seem harmless, but let that repeat for years. You will lose not only time, but also the best version of yourself. I want you to remember this. A powerful life is not built through moments of extreme excitement. It is built through ordinary systems maintained over long periods of time. That is why consistency matters more than intensity. Doing one small thing every day is more powerful than doing one massive thing and disappearing afterward. Because systems create stability, and stability creates growth. Ask yourself, where is your current daily system taking you? If you continue living with the same schedule, environment, and way of using your time as today, who will you become 5 years from now? Because the future is not determined only by dreams. It is determined by the structure of your daily life. But there is something even more powerful than system. It is environment. Because no matter how hard you try, if every day you continue living inside an environment that pulls you downward, the battle becomes far more difficult. Principle 7, your environment is programming you. I want you to take a very close look at your life. Not just your goals, not just your dreams. Look at the environment you live in every single day. Because whether you realize it or not, your environment is quietly programming the person you are becoming, the people you spend time with, the content you consume every day, the conversations you listen to, the things appearing in front of your eyes from morning until night. All of it is shaping the way you think, feel, and act. Many people say they want to change their life, but they continue living inside the same environment that has kept them stuck for years. That is like trying to stay healthy while breathing toxic air every day. You cannot constantly surround yourself with negativity and expect to maintain a strong mindset. You cannot spend hours every day consumed by distraction and then wonder why you cannot focus. You cannot stay around people who constantly justify stagnation and expect yourself to remain disciplined. Environment is stronger than intention. That is something many people underestimate. You may begin the day with strong determination, but if your environment constantly pulls you back toward your old self, the battle becomes harder and harder. Look at the world today. Someone wakes up and the first thing they do is grab their phone. Social media, notifications, short videos, negative news, comparing themselves to other people. And before the day has truly begun, their mind has already been pulled in every direction. Their focus becomes fragmented. Their energy becomes drained. Their peace disappears. Then they wonder why they constantly feel exhausted and unmotivated. You must understand this. What you expose yourself to every day eventually becomes what you think about most. And what you think about most will shape your life. If every day you live surrounded by drama, negativity, and distraction, your mind will become chaotic. If every day you stay around people who constantly complain, quit, and blame others, you will slowly begin seeing mediocrity as normal. That is the power of environment. It does not change you instantly. It changes you little by little, like water flowing over stone. Not powerful in one moment, but over time, strong enough to reshape the entire rock. People are the same way. You slowly begin speaking like your environment, thinking like your environment, believing in the same limitations as your environment. That is why I always say, be careful who you spend most of your time with, because your future is often reflected in the circle around you. If you stay around people serious about growth, you will feel challenged to grow yourself. If you stay around people who consistently take action, procrastination becomes harder to tolerate. But if you stay in an environment where everyone lives without purpose, it may take years before you realize you have slowly become the same way. I have seen many people with enormous potential become smaller because of their environment. They once had dreams, once wanted change, once wanted something greater for their life, but they spent too much time around people constantly saying, "That's too hard, don't dream too big, being stable is enough. Everyone lives like this anyway." And slowly they stop believing in themselves. That is how environment kills potential. Not through one massive blow, but through small influences repeated every day. You must learn how to protect your mind. Not everything deserves access to your thoughts. Not every conversation helps you grow. Not every piece of content is harmless. Ask yourself, what is feeding your mind every day? Are you spending your time on growth or distraction? Are the people around you pulling you forward or making you accept a smaller life? Because the truth is, Environment does not only influence your actions, it influences your standards for life. If you spend too long in an undisciplined environment, you begin seeing discipline as extreme. If you spend too long in an environment filled with procrastination, you begin believing wasting time is normal. That is why sometimes the biggest change is not changing your goals. It is changing your environment. The right book at the right moment, the right mentor at the right moment, a more positive group of friends, a more focused workspace. Those things can completely change the direction of your life. Because when environment changes, behavior begins changing. And when behavior changes long enough, identity changes too. But this is where many people continue failing. They begin changing, begin taking action, begin building a better environment, but then they stop too soon. They quit before results ever have the chance to appear. And next comes the most important principle I want to share with you. Principle 8, you stop too soon. There is one thing causing many people to lose their future. It is not that they never start. It is that they stop too soon. They take action for a while, try for a while, stay disciplined for a while. But when results do not appear fast enough, they begin doubting everything. Doubting the process, doubting the goal, and eventually doubting themselves. That is where many dreams die. Not during one massive failure, but in the quiet moments when someone decides, maybe this just doesn't work. You must understand this. Life rarely rewards you immediately. There is always a gap between action and results. And that gap is exactly where most people quit. Someone begins training, but after a few weeks, their body has not visibly changed yet. Someone starts learning a new skill, but still is not much better yet. Someone begins building a business, but sees no money or success appearing yet. Then they think, I've been trying and nothing is changing, but the truth is, many changes are already happening, you just cannot see them yet. Imagine someone planting bamboo. For the first few years, almost nothing appears above the ground. If you only looked with your eyes, you would think nothing was happening. But underground, the roots are quietly expanding, and eventually the bamboo suddenly rises extremely fast. People are the same way. Many results in life are built invisibly before they become visible. But because people do not see progress immediately, they quit right before everything begins changing. That is the most painful part. They do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because they lack the patience to allow the process enough time to work. I have seen highly talented people quit only a few steps before their breakthrough, not because they were weak, but because they were too focused on short-term results. You see, modern society has made people impatient. Everything is fast. Short videos, short information, instant entertainment, instant dopamine, and eventually people begin expecting life to change as quickly as they scroll through their phone. But growth does not work that way. A strong character takes time. A great career takes time. A meaningful life takes time. There are no shortcuts to real growth. That is why consistency has become extremely rare. Many people can stay strong for 3 days. Very few can stay strong for 3 years. Everyone feels excited in the beginning, but only a few continue when nobody recognizes them. There are no visible results yet. Life becomes difficult. Motivation disappears. That is where character is truly created. You do not build resilience during easy days. You build it during the days you want to quit, but continue anyway. There is a question I want you to ask yourself. How many things have you abandoned simply because the results did not arrive fast enough? How many dreams could have changed your life, but you stopped too soon to ever see it happen? Many people spend their entire life with the feeling, I used to have potential. That is one of the most painful feelings possible. Not because they never started, but because they never stayed long enough. Remember this, small actions only become powerful when repeated long enough. One drop of water cannot break a rock in a single day, but repetition can. And your life changes the same way. Not through one explosive moment, but through ordinary days when you continue moving forward, even when slow, even when tired, even when results are still invisible. Because sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply not stop. I want you to imagine this. If you truly stayed committed to personal growth for 5 straight years, how different do you think your life would become? Not 5 days, not 5 weeks, but 5 years of discipline, learning, consistency, intentional living. You would no longer be the same person. That is the power of staying long enough. But be careful, because even when you become more consistent, there is still one thing quietly deciding who you become. It is the small actions you repeat every day, because in the end, they do not only create results, they create identity. Principle 9, small actions become identity. There is something many people do not understand about change. They think they must first become a confident person before they can take powerful action. But life works in the opposite direction. You act first. Then those actions slowly create a new identity. That is why the small things you do every day matter far more than temporary emotions. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you send your mind a message. I am someone who can be trusted. Every time you overcome procrastination, you build a new image of yourself. Every time you continue despite exhaustion, you quietly create a stronger version of yourself. Identity is not created by what you say. It is created by what you repeat. If every day you act like an undisciplined person, eventually you will believe, that's who I am. If every day you quit whenever life becomes difficult, you will begin seeing yourself as someone who can never follow through. That is the most dangerous thing about small actions. They do not only create external results, they quietly define who you become internally. You see, many people lose self-confidence not because others weaken them. They lose faith in themselves because they constantly watch themselves fail to do what they promised. They say, tomorrow I'll start, but then they never start. They say, next week I'll finally get serious. But everything repeats again. And every time that happens, a small part inside them stops believing in themselves. That is how self-respect erodes, not through one massive moment, but through hundreds of small moments when you betray your own goals. I once said, every day is a piece of your future. Every day you live is placing another brick into the person you are becoming. There is no such thing as an unimportant day, because even when you are not moving forward, you are still reinforcing a direction. Someone who spends 1 hour each day learning will become completely different from someone who spends 1 hour each day escaping from life. Someone who repeatedly chooses difficult things gradually becomes stronger. Someone who constantly chooses easy things gradually becomes weaker. That is how character is built. Nobody wakes up one day and suddenly becomes the best version of themselves. It happens through thousands of small choices. Choosing to wake up instead of hitting snooze for another 30 minutes. Choosing to finish the work instead of procrastinating. Choosing to read instead of mindlessly scrolling on a phone. Those moments seem very small, but they are creating a new person. That is why you should never underestimate small victories. Many people only feel proud when they achieve something massive, but the truth is, life changes through ordinary victories. One day you maintain discipline. One day you refuse to quit. One day you control your emotions instead of letting emotions control you. Those things may seem small, but they are changing your identity. And when identity changes, everything else begins changing too. Because once you truly see yourself as a stronger person, you begin acting differently. You no longer need to force yourself as much. Discipline begins becoming part of who you are. That is when change becomes sustainable. But remember this, identity works both ways. Negative actions repeated consistently also create a negative identity. If every day you continue procrastinating, you will slowly believe you are weak-willed. If every day you avoid challenges, you will slowly believe you are weak. That is why you must be extremely careful with what you repeat daily. Because your future is being built from exactly those things. Ask yourself, if you continue living exactly as you are today for the next few years, what kind of person will you become? Are your current actions building a stronger person or quietly destroying your potential? Because ultimately, life does not change through one magical moment. It changes when you become a different person through small actions repeated every day. And that is where everything truly begins moving. Not when you wait for inspiration, not when you create the perfect plan, but the moment you decide, I will not continue living as my old self anymore. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about in the final principle. Principle 10, your life changes the moment you finally move. There is one moment that can change an entire life. Not when someone gains more motivation, not when they discover the perfect plan, not when all fear disappears, but the moment they decide, I am going to take action even if I am not ready. That is where life begins changing direction. You see, many people spend too many years waiting for the right moment, waiting to feel confident enough, waiting for better circumstances, waiting to finally feel ready. But their life remains frozen inside that waiting. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned is this. Clarity often comes after action, not before it. Clarity usually appears after you begin moving. Nobody has all the answers in the beginning. Successful people are not people without fear. They are simply people who refuse to let fear keep them standing still for too long. I want you to think about everything you have delayed for too long. Maybe it is starting the work you have always wanted to do, improving your health, building discipline, learning a new skill, leaving an environment that is pulling you downward, taking your potential seriously. You have thought about it endlessly. But life only begins changing when you finally move. A ship cannot change direction while standing still. It must begin moving first. And people are the same way. You do not need to change your entire life in one day. You simply need to stop standing still. One small step is enough to break stagnation. One correct decision is enough to change direction. Many people underestimate the power of one small action taken at the right time. One morning you decide to wake up earlier. One day you decide to stop procrastinating. One moment you decide, I will not return to my old self anymore. That could become the beginning of your entirely new future. But remember, action is not something you do once and forget. It is something you continue choosing every day. Some days you will feel powerful, but there will also be days when you feel tired, doubtful, and tempted to return to your old habits. That is when you must remember why you started, because a better life does not magically appear. It is built, day by day, choice by choice, small action by small action. I know there are people listening to this video who feel disappointed in themselves. You look back on the years that have passed and feel like you wasted too much time. You watch others move forward while you remain stuck. But listen to me carefully. As long as you are alive, your life is not over. You can still change direction. You can still build a stronger version of yourself. Nobody is too late to grow. The dangerous thing is not moving slowly. The dangerous thing is giving up on your ability to change. Because the moment someone believes, my life will always stay this way, that is the moment they truly stop living. But I do not want that to happen to you. I want you to remember this. Your potential does not disappear simply because you delayed for too long. It is still there, waiting for you to take your life seriously, waiting for you to take action, waiting for you to stop standing on the sidelines, watching your life pass by. You do not need to be perfect to begin. You only need enough courage to move forward. Because every day you continue taking action in the right direction, a new version of yourself is quietly being created. And one day you will look back at who you are today and realize, what changed your life was not one magical moment. It was the day you stopped waiting and finally started moving. So pause for a few seconds and ask yourself, if today you truly began taking your life seriously, who would you become 5 years from now? Will you continue living with the same old excuses or finally become the person you know you are capable of becoming? That decision begins today, not tomorrow, not next week, but from this very moment. If today's video spoke to you, press like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And write down in the comments, what is the first thing you will change after this video? Because sometimes one small decision made in the right moment can change an entire life. Do not let tomorrow be stolen by today's procrastination. Take action now, and I will see you in the next video.